I wonder if you are asked by the right people to potentially step up. When you take a civilian who's a political 50-year guy who doesn't understand what that is as a leader, you get problems. When you get people who are willing to step up, when asked, would that change your mind?
I love America.
Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to another Prep Life. Let's talk about this third indictment of President Donald Trump and why it could mean the end of democracy as we know it. I'm not going to conspiracize here. I'm not going to blow smoke up your ass. I'm going to tell you how I really feel and give you the evidence to back it. Now, here's the situation. The third indictment just came down, and a lot of people aren't surprised. It's just running the headlines, and everybody's like, yeah, the third indictment, here we go again. Department of Justice, not a big deal, but it is a big deal. If you're interested in freedom, First Amendment rights, I don't know, our country and its future, its sovereignty as a nation for the rest of history and time, then you should tune in and pay attention to what's going on behind the scenes, because they certainly don't want you to pay attention to what's going on behind the scenes. So right now, he's been indicted on 4 federal counts of conspiracy to defraud the United States, conspiracy to obstruct an official proceeding, obstruction of an attempt to obstruct an official proceeding, and conspiracy against rights. Now, these come down as we hear all these charges, all this indictment that comes down through these charges. We see that seditious contempt and insurrection aren't part of the docket. It's like, oh, that's interesting, because they were talking about that a lot. Now, I talk to smarter people than me in the intel world that look at this and analyze this. Big shout out to Heather. She told me that this looks like potentially them utilizing these charges to get broader charges, because the date of this indictment and these charges being heard is after the Republican primaries. So imagine a world where President Donald Trump, he becomes the candidate for President of the United States, and then in discovery, through the indictment, they dig in the weeds and they get him on insurrection. Why would that matter? Well, because when they get him on insurrection, they'll remove him from the ballot. And that means we're looking at the backup to the backup. And who's the backup? I don't know if it's DeSantis, it's Pence. It's nobody profoundly that is going to make change in this country, which is why I voted for Trump initially. I wasn't on the Trump train because I'm like, man, there could be somebody else out here. Who's that person? Is it DeSantis? Well, he's a politician. You need an outsider to come in and really start over. You need to burn down the establishment, get rid of a lot of people, and start over. Because right now, as we look at it, all the corruption and the collusion between the U.S. government and social media and corporate organizations and everybody, the lobbyists and all the things, it is way corrupt. I mean, the American people's trust in the government is the worst it's ever been in the history of our country. So you need somebody to fix it. Trump is a player to fix it. Except if he's stripped off the ballot, he won't be an option. And worst case, Georgia, who's looking at a similar indictment, is likely to do that. And if Pennsylvania, Arizona, and Georgia strip him off the ballot, well, then the people won't decide. And there won't be an opportunity for him to win. And then we're looking at 4 more years of Biden, which is, to me, 4 more years of tyranny. Like, most of us think of tyranny as like the worst case scenario, but we're living the worst case scenario when the Department of Justice in its timing is going after its political opponents. What timing? Well, let's talk about the timing of how things unfolded, starting with June 7th. Via Greg Price's Twitter feed, it's at Greg_Price11. We have June 7th. FBI releases documents to Congress alleging the Bidens took a $10 million bribe from Burisma. Are we investigating that? Not really. We're not even looking at it. I mean, most congressional Democrats don't even care. They're saying it's just a witch hunt, and they haven't even heard the evidence. That is very profound, including from a qualified and vetted asset in intelligence for the United States. But let's get past that, because June 8th, the following day, Jack Smith indicts Trump in Mar-a-Lago. Okay, July 26, Hunter Biden goes to court, rejects sweetheart plea deal. After it was revealed, Department of Justice tried to give him blanket immunity from future prosecutions. Yes, immunity. The reason that case was thrown out, essentially, not the case, but they said, we're going to defer to a different timeline because this doesn't work for me. A federal judge actually said that, was because the case, the defense in the case, the attorneys were saying, like, we wanted immunity from all federal charges. Like, what? What the hell are you talking about? You can't get immunity. And politicians in the White House are saying he's a private citizen. He's protected by the Secret Service, taxpayers' dollars, and he's the president of the United States who did dealings internationally. He flew on Air Force Two to foreign countries to do dealings. It just came out that he took 20 phone calls with his dad, but we're not paying attention to that? Oh, how about this timing? The following day, July 27th, Jack Smith adds more charges for Trump in the Mar-a-Lago case. July 31st, Hunter Biden's former business partner testifies to Congress that Joe Biden was on over 20 calls. Oh, interesting. With his son's business partners, and that Burisma executives pressured them to fire the prosecutor. Oh, really? The following day, Jack Smith indicts Trump again for January 6th. Now, the play would be perfect as a chess match. Because if we wait until after the primaries and he's the man in the position, and then through discovery we find out, oh yeah, he's going to be indicted on charges of insurrection, and then he gets charged and convicted, he'll be removed from the ballot. And who are we left with? Not the person we want. Which is why I am officially letting it be known that I think this doesn't really mean a lot, but I've talked to him about it. I think Jocko Willink should be the president of the United States. I think he should run. I think in the popular vote, he would do very well. I think he has a voice. He has the leadership capability. Certainly has the ability to lead other leaders to lead this country, which is what we need. We don't need a puppet on strings. We need a leader who could manage leaders to run the administration, which runs the country, to unscrew the situation that we're in. Yeah, I've talked to him with it before, and I'm not even joking, guys. There are not many people that I know in the world, in our country, that are capable of running this country. Jocko Willink is one of them. So I'm actually calling you out, Jocko, publicly. If you're hearing this, or if you're hearing this and you agree with me, you should tag him and send him this. I've told him before in person. I've told him before over the phone. He should run.
I wonder if you were asked by the right people to potentially step up. Like I use Tulsi Gabbard as an example, but maybe it's not Tulsi. Maybe it's DeSantis. Maybe it's somebody who understands the stakes and they're high. And maybe it's not the highest calling as the president of the United States, but it's somewhere in the administration leading, because that's what we need. I imagine if the reason I use the analogy on Glenn Beck's show using you and Tulsi Gabbard, because the key to a great leader of a nation is leading people, but also empowering the right human beings to do that job. Your network, your understanding of what good leadership is, when you take a civilian who's a political 50-year guy who doesn't understand what that is as a leader, you get problems. When you get people who are willing to step up when asked, would that change your mind?
I love America. And I would do anything for this country. So I guess if it came down to it, I would do what was asked of me. But man, I hope it doesn't come to that. We'd be in a pretty bad place. And I don't, when you say maybe we're too far gone, I get it. I get it for sure. Man, we've been through some shit, like go to Gettysburg and walk that battlefield and realize that, we killed hundreds of thousands of each other. Even in the late 60s, early 70s, there was police officers getting executed. It was horrible. The Vietnam War just about ripped this country apart. So we've been through a lot of bad times. it seems like it's bad. Part of the reason it seems like it's bad is because we can see more now because of social media and the 24-hour news cycle. Like, there's sharks off the coast of California. There's a lot of them. They can see them now because we got drones out there flying around. There's big great white sharks swimming around out there. We used to not, we knew that they were out there kind of, but we didn't really know it. Now we know they're out there. You can go watch them. So we're seeing a lot of that now. You travel around this country. Most of the people that I meet in this country are not crazy. Most of them are like, what are they thinking about? They're thinking about helping their family. They're thinking about building their business. They're thinking about working hard. That's what they're thinking. They're not thinking about these crazy people that you see on Twitter. They're not thinking like that. They're just good people. That's what the majority of America is. At some point, that majority of America needs to step up, and we need to step up. I think I'm one of those people. I actually talked about this recently. Like, if I had a presidential or I had a party, it'd be called normal. Like, hey, I'm just a normal person over here. That's what I am, a normal person. And there's a lot of Americans that are just normal. And they're not fringe. They're just trying to raise their family, trying to build a business, trying to work hard. That's what they're trying to do. So that's where we're at. Most people are like that. Are there some fringe crazies out there? Yes, there are. Do they get a lot of airtime? Yes, they do. Do they make a lot of noise? They certainly do. Are they wrecking some cities? Sure, they are. Yeah, for sure. I live in California, man. Go to LA. It's parts of LA is third world crazy. Parts of San Francisco are third world crazy. Like, you can't imagine that this is in America, but it is. At some point, do the people of LA, the people of San Francisco, look around and say, dude, we've had enough of this shit, right? And California as a whole, California is farmers, man. California is farmers. It's agricultural. It's people that are out working hard every day. That's what California is. And there's a couple cities that are not like that. So I think the louder these loud elements get, and they, you're in a restaurant and the one table over there, they got the loudmouths over there, and you're the waiter and you're like, okay, yep, here's the beer you wanted, here you go. And then they start yelling more and we want French fries. So you get them the French fries and you're trying to take care of them. And eventually you say, you know what, you're freaking out of here. You're ruining this for everybody else. You're gone. I think we'll get there before we have a big bar fight. And guess what? If we have a bar fight, I'm winning.
I love that.
If we're going to make a decision, we need to do that now. And when you wrap your head around the difficulty of running for president, because you need capital, you need a network, he's got all that. We have the capital. We could accumulate the capital. We have the network to bring people together, and we could form the team that is required to lead this nation, and we need somebody in charge of that, and Jocko's the right man. I think it should be a Jocko Tulsi Gabbard ballot. And I'll say that, and I might be extreme for saying it, but I analyze and assess all this, and the best case we have, the P in the PACE plan, is a Jocko Willink Tulsi Gabbard run. And I would do everything in my power to support that run, financially, my time, whatever it took. So, and I know right out the gate, there are hundreds of people that I'm affiliated with, associates, friends, that would be willing to do the same to make sure that he's successful. So just putting it out there. And I'm not joking. I am not joking. Let's talk about this rewilding course. I did want to give you a couple of pro tips as it relates to preparedness. One, get outside and disconnect. That was the general theme and the feedback that we got that was very positive. The disconnection from social media, the immersion of being around like-minded people who are sharing burdens, who are sharing interpersonal relationships is very impactful and will change your life. We need to get back to basics. So please do that. I'm not trying to sell the course because it's already sold out. The last course that's available is November timeframe. That'll be the last course that we do for the year. September 1st is our grand opening. Please be there. If it changes, I'll put it out. But it looks like September 1st is going to be at our new place in Provo, Utah. August 19th is the first course in a few weeks that I'll be teaching. This week, or not this weekend, the following weekend is actually our mobility experience. It is one of my favorite courses. We got Kyle Cooper from Backcountry Motor Adventures coming out, Mike Hernandez, our mobility director, the guys from Factor 55. I'll be teaching a couple blocks. It is a time for you to get off grid and learn all the things about mobility, survival, preparedness. Kevin Estella will be there teaching survival. So please sign up for that at fieldcraftsurvival.com. Look, North Korea has just released the information that they got this private king. North Korea is a shit show. I want to get to the ground truth of what's going on there because recently, for the first time in history, or the first time since the 80s, but it's rare, they just moved, the country, South Korea and America, just moved a nuclear sub off the coast. Why is that important? Well, because South Korea and North Korea don't have a peace treaty signed. It's an armistice agreement. Basically, to put down arms, draw a DMZ in the sand, and call it good. That is a problem. When you look at the foreign policy debacle we're in with the Strait leading into Iran, where they're trying to empower themselves by providing their own security and bullying other people, and we're trying to protect that place, we are nearly at war with Iran. We are nearly at war with Russia and China. We are nearly at war with North Korea. How are we doing as a country when our focus is providing more support to Ukraine than our American citizens? Well, I want to get in the weeds of these specific issues because it's important. I talked about it before. It's why Sean Ryan's channel is so important, getting down in the weeds. We need long-form communication on very important hot topic issues the national media isn't conversing about. You know why the national media is not talking about Ukraine right now? Because they don't want you to know they're pumping billions of dollars into a foreign war. They want you to know that all the military-industrial complex businesses that are, and politicians that are profiteering off the war should be concerning to you. Well, it's not concerning to you if you're not hearing about it. We need to hear more about it. So I'm doing Mike Force Podcast. I've been doing Mike Force Podcast, but I want to distill a lot of the prep life that I do in person, maybe even in South Korea on the border, in Ukraine, talking about these hot topic issues, but also providing you guys with the podcast version. Yesterday, finishing it off today on Prep Life, I just podcasted Mr. Dick Thompson. Thompson was a MACV-SOG 1-0. He was a team leader in Vietnam. Guys, our country has sometimes recklessly abandoned a lot of people, including Americans, behind enemy lines, POWs and MIAs. And we did that because we didn't have our shit together because we didn't have the right leaders in charge. When you hear Dick Thompson's stories of cross-border operations with MACV-SOG, and you hear all the things that happened and some of that repeat history that I correlate that we did with Pakistan and Afghanistan or Iraq and Syria and Iran, man, it's crazy how history repeats itself. But I recommend getting Dick Thompson's book. It's an amazing read. Let me actually give you the exact title so you guys could look it up. It's called SOG, codename Dynamite, a MACV-SOG 1-0's personal journal, book 1. That story in that podcast will be out very soon. And it's the way that we should be referencing history through long-form conversations about people who were there. Guys, I appreciate you supporting the channel. I'm off to the underground. If you're not a paid member on Patreon, I do the underground show in the uncensored version of Reacts. You guys can find it on patreon.com/Mike Glover. Big shout out to all my Patreons who support the channel. Without you, I wouldn't be able to do what I do. Subscribe, notification tab, all that good stuff. Till next time, peace out, guys.